like it, but I think you got more energy than that. Give it up. How we doing?
Whoa!
Much better. Folks, I'm about to introduce our next guest. You may know them as number 6 from Battlestar Galactica, maybe as Charlotte Richards from Lucifer, or even Dracula from Van Helsing. We got a little video to play for you. Join me in giving a very, very warm welcome to Tricia Halfer.
Is on.
Hi.
Hello. Hello. Got my tea down.
Excellent. Getting cozy. How are you going, first and foremostly?
I apologize to you in the green room. I'll apologize to all of you. I'm a little bit tired. I wrapped last night after 5.5 weeks of production on the Gold Coast. Wrapped about 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm working on about an hour and a half of sleep from flying here after wrapping and getting cleaned up from, jungle action movie, greasy and sweaty look. So
that is absolutely brutal. Well, I'm sure the folks in the crowd will promise on going easy on you. Firstly, welcome to Perth. Have you been with us before?
I have been to Perth twice, actually.
Well, it's
yes.
fantastic.
This is my third time. Third time.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So the first time, I can't remember what year it was, but I came in from Sydney and had gotten the flu at the convention in Sydney, so my Perth experience was not so good. But the second time was an absolutely wonderful trip, and I got out to do some touring around and got to Rottnest Island and to the prison tour.
You got your infamous Quokka selfie?
I did.
Excellent.
I did. Very, very happy with my Quokka selfie.
Beautiful. Are you with us for much longer this time around?
No, so I just landed at about 1 o'clock, and I leave tomorrow night.
Very quick trip.
Yeah, leave tomorrow night back to the States. So.
All right. Well, we'll jump.
It was worth it to come here and see you guys.
Yeah. We'll jump into a few questions. I'll just let everyone in the audience know I've prepared a few questions, but we will be opening up to audience Q&A very shortly. So if you have anything on your mind that you'd love to ask the wonderful Tricia, please think it up, and when I let you know, pop your hands up right in the air, and our lovely volunteers will come over to you, and you'll be able to ask your question. Let's jump into it.
Yes, let's do it.
I think first and foremost, I think everybody always loves to know everyone's origin stories. So I know you've done a lot of modeling, you've done acting, you've also done voice acting. What was your journey into the entertainment industry?
I guess I would have never got into acting if I hadn't got into modeling first. And that was a complete, I wasn't planning on doing either. I was planning on going to university and probably going into psychology. And then I was discovered by a modeling scout, so decided to give that a try and ended up working for 10 years, a little over 10 years in the modeling business. And it was within that, toward the end of that time period, where I started taking acting classes, kind of just to get a feel and see if it would be something I'd be interested in. And from the first class, just fell in love with it. So went, absolutely, that's what, I want to transition careers. And so I studied in New York City while I was still modeling, and then made the transition in 2002.
Absolutely beautiful. One of your first major roles was as number 6 in Battlestar Galactica. Do we have any Battlestar Galactica fans in the house? Yeah, lots of love. How did you approach bringing life into such an iconic role and such a complex character?
I think I loved the script from the beginning. didn't know too much about the character or where she was going to go. I mean, at that point, aside from Head Six evolving in the miniseries, didn't know anything about subsequent iterations of Six. And because Six wasn't in the original show, I was kind of going, you know, it was a little bit more of a clear chalkboard, so to speak. So I worked with Michael Reimer, the director, and Ron Moore, obviously the creator of the show, in kind of getting as much of their kind of input as we could. But some of you may have heard or had heard this quote that I've said before, but I didn't have much to go off of because Ron Moore did a series Bible for the show at the beginning of the show that he gave to every crew member and all the cast, and it was this tome, right? And every main character had like pages of backstory, and mine had one line: "The machine as woman." And I was the newest actor of the bunch. I had only been acting for not even a year. This was my first series. I went to Ron and I said, like, "You're not giving me anything here. You give Edward James Olmos 7 pages and Mary McDonnell 7 pages, and you give me a sentence?" And he goes, "I haven't decided everything about the Cylons yet, so I can't tell you more." So some of mine was just evolving as we went along as well.
And as that character evolved, you would have found they were portrayed both villainous and quite sympathetic. How did you approach like that overall, like both of those kind of all those?
Well, the villainous
feelings?
is fun to play. That comes quite easy. It's sort of therapy. I don't get to do it in my own life, so why not bring it up? use it to bring it out on screen. But no, I mean, you know, I was the one known one, you know, on the bad side, so to speak, right, from the beginning. But that's one of the things that the show did very well, is show an alternate perspective. And if you could start to sympathize to some extent with the other side, then you can maybe gain some more perspective, right? And portraying a character, you have to come at it from, you know, consciously you can look at it from your own perspective, but then you have to come at it from the perspective of who you're playing and what their thoughts and feelings are, right? So you kind of have to put yourself into their shoes. And so yeah, I tried to look at it from a silent perspective, if that's possible to do.
Awesome.
If that makes any sense.
With your work with Battlestar Galactica, I apologize. Battlestar Galactica, you would have found a lot of passionate fans. Do you have any memorable or notable experiences with fans at events, or anything that kind of sticks with you at all?
You know, it's Battlestar fans are great, and they run the gamut from all different types of careers and backgrounds and people. So it's really, I've just had some amazing experiences of hearing how maybe it helped them get through a deployment, or just they watched it with their kids, or they're now watching it with their kids. It is a show that continues to be extremely relevant. You know, I did a rewatch of the show a few years ago for a podcast, Battlestar Galacticast, and I was taken aback at that time, because I was expecting it to be like, I hadn't seen it since it aired originally, since we filmed it, and I was expecting it to be a little dated and such, and it's not at all. So it's a show that will continue, I think, to live on, and I think that's one of the things I love to see, is people and new generations experiencing it as well. I do have a funny story though, but it wasn't at a convention, it was at a pet store. And I was in, have you heard that? You heard my story on it? Sorry, over the years, the same stories resurfaced. But it just made me giggle, because I was in a pet store and I had a Battlestar Galactica jacket on, like this jacket that we gave the crew, the cast gave the crew after the first season. And I had dark brown hair for a movie that I was doing. And this guy comes up to me, he's like, "Oh, that was a great show." Like, and it says crew on it. He's like, "Did you work on the show?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he's like, "Oh, it was a great show." And he goes, "What did you do?" And I looked at him and was like, "I was one of the actors." And then he looks at me more, and then it clicks. And he doesn't say another word. He just turns around and runs out of the store. like I'm that mean on the show. Like, I'm not gonna attack you. I'm not gonna, slam you up against a mirror like I did a Baltar or break the neck like, I mean, you're a little bit bigger than the baby. So, yeah, so he just hightailed it out of the store and never came back. So.
I don't know how to respond. Maybe I did. Let's talk about Lucifer. You've also another very complex character, Charlotte Richards. A lot of influences from other characters on the show. How did you find preparing for that role?
With Lucifer, it was a direct offer. So I went and I talked to Joe Henderson and Ildi Motovich, who are the showrunners on the show, and had a dialogue with them. But they didn't really give me too much to go off of. Originally, they'd only given me the first script, and I come in at the very end and say one line. They're just such a great collaborative group, and a really fun group of people. And Tom Ellis, who plays Lucifer, is just a dream to work with. He's a extremely kind man and very fun, and he was a big Battlestar Galactica fan. So I was a little nervous going in because I didn't have a lot to go on. Similar with Battlestar, I didn't have a lot to go on in terms of where the character was going to be heading. But I just kind of, how do you play the goddess of all creation? Like, I didn't have a reference for it really, so I kind of just went in going, okay, well, I'll figure it out when I get in there. And sometimes at least for my own process, I can do a lot of research and backstory and all that type of thing, but a lot of it is also really comes from working with the team, and we call it, a lot of actors call it finding your feet, and sometimes, like, we'll talk about this, like, sometimes if you start with one very small scene, it's harder than if you get thrown in on the first day and you have a bunch of really meaty scenes, because you're really thrown in at the deep end and you just find your feet and find the character immediately. And if you go in with one tiny scene or something, it's harder to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and go, okay, this is who this character is, and I'm now inhabiting her, right? So starting with the one scene with this elevator, I don't know if who here has seen it, and I had worked with the director before, so I was walking into a room where I knew some of the crew. Tom was really lovely and very gushy about Battlestar and all this stuff, and so I felt very welcomed. But they shut the elevator doors. We did the rehearsal, and then they shut the elevator doors to start rolling on the first take. And I started having this panic attack. Like, I don't know how to play a goddess. Like, what am I doing? And so you can prepare as much as you want, but sometimes it's still daunting.
Absolutely.
One funny add to that. I told you in the green room that I'm going to ramble too. If I'm tired, I ramble, so I apologize. just go. Cut it off. That first take as well, when I was having a mini panic attack in the elevator, the doors open and I come stagger out of the elevator, and Tom goes to catch me, and he rips his pants. So, in the first take, rips his pants, right? Split the seat of his pants. So that kind of broke the ice, and yeah.
Cleared some tension.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
With your experiences with a lot of film, television, you've also done some voice acting. How did that approach differ from kind of industry to industry?
I got into the voiceover part of the business because of Battlestar, actually. My first video game was Command and Conquer, and while that was a live action, and Grace Park was also in that video game. I think Michael Hogan? No, or he was in Halo. Anyway, they wanted number 6 and Boomer. So I got into it that way, and then once you kind of get your foot in the door, and I worked, and I'm pretty sure probably Mass Effect was also that, and work begetting other work, right? And then once you get your foot in the door, then you start to know some of the voice directors and things like that, and then that would, I did a Green Lantern animated movie, and that was because the voice director had worked with me on something else, and so I'm not one of the voice actors that the uber talented at all the different types of voices and that type of thing. I can obviously alter my voice and do different things, but I can't do a bunch of accents, and so I'm not a huge voiceover actor in terms of working with it all the time, but I have been very fortunate to do quite a few games, and I just did a voiceover job that was actually pretty cool. Nobody, unless you're in the United States and EMS, or Canada's going to have it as well, I think, because it's like Siri, but for a drone, and it's for EMS and military and firefighters, police, all that type of thing, to help give them directions with this drone called the Red Queen, which I'm and the developers of the drone were actually StarCraft fans, which is why I brought it up, because the voice of our video game. So they thought it was going to be very funny, and we put a couple of nuggets in there of the drone saying a couple of StarCraft lines. So
that's awesome. I've got a couple more questions. If you're prepared for a question, if you've got something in mind, start popping your hands up, and we'll get our lovely volunteers to start making their way over to you. Another question for you. Is there a character or that you portray that kind of most aligns to your own personal character, or character most memorable?
Funny enough, there was probably haven't seen it here, but it was on ABC for a season, a show called Killer Women that I did, and I played a Texas Ranger. And not that I'm a Texas Ranger, but a lot of that character was very similar to me. She was a tomboy, liked to get dressed up, but also a tomboy, and that's me to a T. I grew up on a farm, and so that was probably the closest character to me personally out of any of my characters. Otherwise, I played Dracula and the Goddess and a robot and a cold-blooded lawyer or something. But yeah, Molly Parker and Killer Women was probably the closest to me.
And from all the opportunities you've had as part of your career, has there been any lessons or any specific skills that you've learned along the way that have kind of been, you feel, the most important as part of your journey?
Most important? Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many. I don't really know. I mean, I think in this business, perseverance. You have to really love the business because it has a lot of ups and downs. The last 2 years has been personally very difficult for me because I moved, and which, if any of you have done a big cross-country move, it can be very challenging, and moving where you don't know anyone, and I not long afterwards fell and really badly destroyed my knee and was out for over a year. So in a new area, no work, going through physical therapy, and then ultimately surgery to ligament reconstruction, and then another 6 months of therapy and everything. And then I just was like getting back into work mode, and then the writers and actors strike happened. So it was 2 years of downtime. And during that time, I realized how much I really missed what I do. And so it has helped me kind of realize that how lucky I am to be able to do something that I love. and to try and weather the ups and downs with a little bit more grace upon myself, because I can be very hard on myself if I'm not working enough, or I'm not doing this, or not getting that role, or whatever, and just be a little bit more present in the moment. That's my goal, at least. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm succeeding, but talk to me in a year.
It seems like you're doing a good job. I can see it. Let's open it up to some questions. I see some hands up. We got someone ready. Oh.
Hi.
There it is.
Out of the entire Lucifer cast, who is the most like their character off screen, and who is the complete opposite?
Oh, good question. Leslie Ann has a lot of Maze in her. That's probably, I would say, is most similar in a way, because she's obviously not a demon, but Maze has, through her tough exterior, right, she has a heart, and Leslie Ann is a hustler and a go-getter. It's remarkable. I'm in awe of her kind of stamina and hustle, and she has a directness that Maze has, and a hustle that is it's really awesome to see. But underneath it all, a really strong heart and love of her friends and family, and I think so. That's what popped into my head as the closest. Yeah. Thank you.
Question up the back.
What was it like working with Blizzard Entertainment about 10 years ago?
With who?
Blizzard for StarCraft.
Oh, it was great. It was probably one of my favorite experiences for video games. I worked with the same voice director, and it's the 3 games that I did spanned over a few years of filming or taping, I guess. But it was for the video games. For me, they were very collaborative is the wrong word. For example, when I did Mass Effect, I had no idea. I don't play the game, so I had no idea of kind of the story, and I wasn't given anything in advance. So I'd show up, and there'd be a computer screen, and there would be a line on it. So the first time I read the line, it was being recorded, so I had no kind of reference. And with StarCraft, they gave me material before, and sometimes with video games it can be hard to read because it's not like a script where you have a beginning, middle, and end. You're doing a piece of the game at a time because it takes so long to make, right? So you're doing a piece. But they were very good about giving me, especially as we went further along, cinematics and visuals. They would send me in advance, so I kind of had more of an idea of what I was doing and saying than just randomly saying a line and hoping it made sense. I mean, obviously the voice director would tell you if you're reading it wrong, but so I had a little bit more idea of the story arc of the game for StarCraft than I did for the other games that I've done.
Awesome. Next one in the middle.
Hi. Since you're in Australia, can you give us your best Australian impression?
Oh gosh, I've just been working with Australians for the last 6 weeks. But I've been playing a Russian scientist, so I haven't even picked up any of the accent, I don't think. You're gonna embarrass me. No, I can't. What do you want me to say? What do you want?
If you'd like to try, let's go. If you're up for it, you don't have to. You can say, I love fairy bread.
I love what?
Fairy bread. It's a lovely fairy bread. It's a slice of bread with sprinkles on it.
Oh, I saw that. They had that on set last night. I was like, what is this?
Did you try it?
No.
Yeah, that's fair.
It looked like, I thought it was a shortbread cookie with sprinkles on it, so I got so excited. And the director's daughter was there, and she's 5 years old, and she picked one up, and it just went.
It is an infamous party food. for Australia?
Yes, no, I did not. But no, I'm not answering your question, sweetheart. I'm going to do the one that everybody does. Good day, mate.
Oh, perfect.
But I think if I had been playing, even playing American in the movie, I would have probably picked up more of the accent from all the crew. But I was so in my head about playing a Russian scientist and having to do my Russian accent that I didn't pick it up.
Excellent. Next question, I think, is also in the middle.
Hi Tricia, amazing that you're here. Welcome back to Perth. First off, someone get this woman some fairy bread. It is delicious, trust us. I wanted to ask about Six, because huge Battlestar fans, we absolutely love you in Six. I'm still reeling that you only got one line of direction. It's incredible that you did so much with that character.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about when you're working with James, who plays Dr. Gaius. Obviously you have to be quite close for a lot of those scenes. But also you had so many versions of Six. How did you code switch between all of the different, like Head Six, Capital Six, like how did you manage that?
Because the characters, the other iterations kind of started off slow, I think aside from Head Six and Capital Six in the miniseries, the first one was Shelley Godfrey in the first season. And that to me was so fun because I was like, well, I can't go in there like this vixen because nobody's gonna believe her. And, so I was like, can I make her walk a little different, a little more upright, less slinky, and can I, have her talk a little bit more curt and so I talked to Ron about it, and that's, I think, what started it. And then I didn't have another one until halfway through the second season with the Gina episodes. And again, that was a time where I was like, this is a great opportunity to make this character different. And I wanted to explore the idea of a machine suffering PTSD. And so I asked Ron if I could bring that in, and obviously some of that was in the script as well, but and make her look different. It coincided with my hair falling out from being bleached, so they had to, they were gonna have to wig the character because it literally coincided with my hair falling out, and they had to overnight a wig. So I said, can you shave my head, buzz my head, because my hair was so damaged. But Gina's matted, kind of awful hair in the prison was what my hair was like, trying to put some color back into it. But they wouldn't let me buzz my head. But it sort of started organically from having those two very specific characters as my first iterations that were different. And then it just went from there. I was like, okay, you couldn't do it like in the later episodes in season 4 when there started to be Sonia, and like Natalie was a little bit different. Natalie was much more focused on trying to broker peace, and she had more of a political mindset, and she was much more straightforward as well. But it got kind of funny because when there got to be like so many Cylons in the last season when they were on board the Galactica, I'm a little OCD, and I got very protective over my characters. I'm terrible with stunt doubles or photo doubles or anything. Like I have to be on set, and I do most of my own stunts and everything, so it's rare that there is one unless it's, it's a bigger stunt. But they would have photo doubles all the time, and I remember being like just super focused on the photo doubles in the episode Downloaded, because there was all these photo doubles walking around, and I'd be like, no, you can't, they didn't have the scripts, they didn't know, but they'd have one in a Caprica outfit walking like she was a Head Six. I'm like, you can't walk like that. You're on a mission. You're like, your headspace is here. And so I'd go around to all the photo doubles, and I'd be like, and I'd be watching everyone, and I'd be going, so I think I annoyed them, but I got very protective over my character. And when somebody else is playing it and not playing it how you would play it, right? Even if it's just their back. So I wanted to make the ones that you know of or that you got to know have their own story. So I guess it was easier for me to flip in my head because I knew who they were than maybe somebody else watching it. I don't know, I hope I made them different. But then also the ones that had a different look like Natalie had my own hair at that point. My hair had grown out and was healthy again. But like the makeup artist said when I was doing the Gina episode, the Pegasus episodes, hair and makeup and costume and everything really, it's all together, like it all works together. And the makeup artist said when she would take me from Head 6 to Gina, she's like, it's so fun to watch because you're just transforming in the chair, taking the glamour off and then putting kind of the rawness on. And she goes, your body language is changing. Like I would get smaller and I would get quieter and I would get, and the makeup artist that I was just working with on the Gold Coast was the same thing. She was like, it's so fun to see some, you and Ryan, I was working with an Aussie, Ryan Quanten, from True Blood. And she's like, yeah, you guys just really, you start to transform in the chair. So it's not just when you get to set, but you'll come in and you'll be like, talking away, being yourself, and then you get into costume, and then you start with the particular hair and makeup, and you transform. So I don't know if that answered your question, but again, cut me off.
No, that was awesome. Fantastic answer. Yeah, let's go with a question over here.
Hi. You mentioned earlier that you're considering studying psychology in university. So my question is, if you had the opportunity to write a paper on one of the versions of 6, which one would you write about?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess from a psychological standpoint, probably Gina. Yeah, probably Gina.
Excellent. We got a question from Deadpool at the front.
On the show Lucifer, when you got the script that showed you dying, what was your what did you think at that time that they were killing off your character? Because I think you did an awesome job of that character.
Thank you. I knew in advance of getting the script. The Joe and Ildy, the showrunners, brought me into the office and told me about it. And I actually joked because they called me, they came into set and I was doing a scene where I was in a Starbucks with, I think DB and Menadil was in there. Anyway, and they came and their assistant came and said, Joe and Ildy would like to see you at lunch. And I was like, am I getting fired? And he just went, I wasn't getting fired. Ultimately, I actually was only booked for one season. I was only supposed to play the goddess. And they extended my contract for another year to play Charlotte Richards. So that was not their original plan to have the Charlotte Richards arc at all. And just, a few episodes into filming, they kind of, Warner Brothers wanted to extend my contract. And so I got a bonus year out of it. Of course, I would have loved to stay on longer. It was a fantastic show to be part of, but it was when they told me that how the character, what was gonna happen. It was a beautiful story, right? It was a beautiful redemption story, and on a going forward basis, I don't really know how Charlotte would have fit in with she wasn't in the precinct. It's not a lawyer show, so I kind of felt like it would have been grasping at straws trying to figure out how to incorporate her into longer season, into further seasons. So it made sense for the show, and it was a beautiful arc and a beautiful story of this character's Charlotte Richards, not the goddess, but Charlotte coming, figuring out and how she can make some amends and how she can do better in her life, and ultimately. It ended up how it ended up, but...
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Excellent. Folks, we have time for a couple more questions, so shoot your hands up straight in the air if you have any extra questions. We've got another one out the front, in the middle here.
Yeah, another Battlestar question. What was it like on set when you were playing the imaginary Head 6 and everyone else is needing to ignore that you are there? How was that?
It was it was harder on everybody else than it was on me, and there'd be like a learning curve, right? So the first time or two that like any other character had to be in those scenes, it was tougher because if somebody speaks, you naturally look there. Like it's hard for the other characters. For me, I just had to do some gymnastics of like getting behind a chair during certain, some editing they had to do with actual editing, but half the time it was me, just the camera slightly pans away and I duck out of the room or whatever. So for me it was a little challenging sometimes, feeling like I was in the scene because I was hiding behind something, and then I would miss some nuance that a character, another actor did because I didn't see it, right? But for the other actors, they had to get used to ignoring the fact that I was there. And I think the funniest one for me was Richard Hatch when he came in. And I think the first scene that he's in with me, at one point I even drape over his shoulder. And he lost his lines, and he got all flustered because he's like, how am I supposed to ignore that she's here? She's literally draped on top of me. So, but a scene or two and they pick it up, and then it's like, it becomes just, that's what we do, and it becomes normal. But every character had a couple of every actor had a couple of stumbles in those scenes, yeah.
Awesome. Got a question in the back.
What has been your favorite location to film?
My favorite location? It's gonna sound really bad, but in one way, Los Angeles, because I get to be home. Although I live in Georgia now anyway, so, but yeah, so much filming is, I've lived in LA for the last 22 years, aside from the last 2 years, and you so rarely get to work from home that it is a real treat to actually be able to sleep in your own bed at night and not have to put your life on hold, so that's probably be my answer. But it was really great just working here on the Gold Coast. Lots of bug bites and mud and challenging shoot, more so for the crew. The crew were amazing, but yeah, I've been muddy and dirty and sweaty for the last 5.5 weeks. But beautiful locations and really amazing for, the movie is set in Vietnam in 1968, so when you're actually in.
Beautiful. We have time for one last question. Oh, there you go. Someone just at the back, wave it right in the air so our volunteers can see you. All right, they're coming down.
Hi, you've been really successful at doing villains. I just wondered, what kind of roles would you like to be playing next?
I like for me, the best part is being able to change it up and play different types of roles. If you only played a villain, right, it would get limiting, or if you only played the good guy. There's a role that I would love to do, and that, sadly, my hopes of playing it keep diminishing. I've tried to get it made a few times and I just haven't been successful at it yet. But it's another villain because it's a serial killer. But that would be, dare I say, really fun to play. It's based off a series of books. Not fun because of the subject material, but I love the books. And so bringing that character and that story to life would be really fun. But yeah, I just like mixing it up. Playing the Texas Ranger was one of my favorite roles, even though the show wasn't all that good. Needed a little bit more, needed to find its feet a little bit more. But what else? I don't know. I've got a project potentially in the works that could be really, really fun if it gets going. Keep your fingers crossed. We're waiting to hear if a certain network wants to pick it up. So. In that case, I would be playing an FBI agent with a twist, and I think that could be also really fun.
Very interesting. Folks, unfortunately, that is all the time we have today, but come back tomorrow. We have another Q&A, more questions, and another opportunity to ask whatever you have in mind. But you're also going to be at your table throughout the
Yes,
weekend.
I am.
So feel free to go check the schedule and see when Tricia will be there. But without further ado, everyone, please, a big, warm round of applause. Thank you so much, Tricia
Thank
Halfer.
you guys. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We're back again.
We're back with day 2. Thank you for joining us once again. A little breakdown for the audience. I've got a few questions prepared, but we will be opening up the floor to some audience Q&A as well. So get those brains moving. If you have any questions you'd love to ask, Tricia, come up with something interesting, and we'll open up the floor very soon. Let's kick things off. How are you, first and foremost? Day 2. I know it's been a wild couple of days for you.
Yes, I'm actually more tired today after getting some sleep than yesterday working off of no sleep. I think I was like, you get that second wind, and slept for 10 hours last night, and now I'm a little loopy today.
All right, don't worry. We'll keep it all chill. We'll go easy.
Remember from yesterday, if I start rambling, just go.
No, but when you ramble, it's not even rambling. It's providing us with such deep context of things that we're all interested in finding out. So it's not rambling at all. We love to hear it. But we'll start with something simple, as we always do. For everybody always wants to know, what is your origin story? How did you get into the field? You've done from modeling, acting, voice acting. Tell us a little bit about the journey getting into the space.
I'll try and change it in case any of you were here yesterday. I grew up on a farm in Canada, and I was planning on going to university, probably into psychology, and I got discovered by a modeling scout. So decided to give that a try, and ended up having a lovely career at it, and traveled the world, and then decided towards the end of that, it's a short career, modeling, and decided to give acting a try. So took an acting class and just fell in love with it from the first class, and that was my maybe have my second career, which I'm still in, so I've been very fortunate. But I would have never gotten into it had that modeling scout not that chance opportunity, right? And but I would have never got into acting. I grew up without a television, so I really had no reference. I didn't grow up watching movies and TV and going, oh, I want to do that or be in that business. It just was all kind of happenstance.
Yeah, excellent. Tell us a little bit about Van Helsing. You played Dracula. How did you prepare for that role?
Well, I hadn't seen the show Van Helsing, so I watched the first season, and I think similar to number 6 in many ways, and also playing the goddess in Lucifer, when you're playing like a being that is outside of our norm. If you're playing a lawyer, or you're playing an FBI agent, or I read books on FBI, and I did, that even if I was married to a lawyer for a long time, so I have some reference point, but you have a lot more idea of the day-to-day in their life. When you're playing something so extreme, it really is a lot more imagination, and there's a real fun element to it as well, because it's sort of like being a kid and and playing make-believe. When you're playing an extreme character, it is a lot more like playing make-believe than it is if you're playing, the role that I just did in January, where I'm playing a breast cancer survivor and I'm telling a real woman's story. So with playing Dracula, I was so upset that I didn't get to bite anyone. I was like, I'm Dracula? Mm-hmm.
I volunteer.
You volunteered. Yes, I didn't get to bite anyone. I did get to bite one person, I guess, so I can't say I didn't get to bite anyone. But
not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough. This is way too much information, but I'm known as a biter amongst my friends. It's like a love tap for me is I'll bite my friends. And so I was very excited to get to play Dracula and bite people, and I didn't get to, so.
Well, I lost my train of thought.
I didn't really answer your question on how did I prepare.
That's all good. We'll talk about Lucifer, your role as Charlotte Richards. Similarly, how did you prepare for, once again, a very big being, very complex character. Tell us a little bit about your experiences playing her.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned yesterday, if anyone was here, it was one of those where I just threw myself into it because you really have no reference point of how to play this character. And luckily they had, with episodic TV as opposed to a movie, when you shoot a movie, you know the entire story from the beginning. So you can make more informed choices. When you're doing episodic television, you don't have anything but in advance aside from the one episode. So in my first episode, I come into it at the very end, and thankfully they gave me the second script to have a little bit more of a basis to go on. But yeah, I had a little bit of, I just sort of threw myself into it and said I'm going to kind of figure out as we go along. And I did have a little bit of stress the first scene where they shut the elevator doors, and all of a sudden I go, how am I playing this? I have no idea how to play a goddess of all creation. But really, I mean, I tried to focus on the fact that she really was a mother that wanted to see her children and and cared about her children, and it really was about. She maybe went about it in some wrong ways, but she really ultimately was a mother. It was a mother talking to her sons, and that's what I tried to base it off of, more so than the not extraterrestrial but celestial or whatever aspect of it.
Excellent. As well as being an actor, in your acting career, you've also been involved with various philanthropic efforts. Can you share a bit more about some of the causes that you've been really passionate about and why they're important to you?
Most of the work that I do in that aspect, not only publicly in terms of PSAs, public service announcements or something, or campaigns, but also personally, where I donate my money or my time or whatever. I have a lot of rescue animals, rescue cats specifically, and I've fostered, and I work closely with Kitten Rescue in Los Angeles and Best Friends and ASPCA. Animals are near and dear to my heart, so that's where, there's so many places that we need help, right, in our society and in our world, and so I think finding one that you're passionate about yourself and being able to help out in that realm is something that, so I've always geared to more towards animals. Certainly done some other things along the way as well, but so I try and help out where I can, if it's on the ground in terms of fostering or something like that, or donate. I have a website where I sell certain memorabilia and things from sets and autographed photos, and I donate all that money to animal charities. So yeah, I try and help out where I can, but I'm passionate about animals, so that's where I put my focus.
Are there any other ways you incorporate that love of animals and the wildlife, big words, conservation, into your daily life and your work?
Not so much in my work, except for using the platform that I have to be able to maybe raise some awareness, such as I actually was at Congress last September in Washington D.C. to help lobby the U.S. government to try and pass legislation, which Australia has already passed this legislation. In the States, we're farther behind, passing legislation to make cosmetics testing, animal testing for cosmetics banned. And So I work with Humane Society on that. I did voiced a character in a short film called Save Ralph, actually by an Australian director, Spencer Susser, that is all about trying to promote banning cosmetics testing, animal testing for cosmetics. So I lost my train of thought there too. But yeah, so I went to Congress and lobbied in some of our congressmen, things like that. I totally lost the question.
Oh, you know what? That's absolutely answered. It's part of your daily life. That's
yes.
Great to
Okay,
know.
part of my daily life. Yes.
The things you do. Folks, I'm about to open up the floor to some questions, so pop those hands up if you have any questions you like, and one of our lovely crew will come around. I've got one more for you before we do that. Everyone here, I'm sure, are big fans of Battlestar Galactica. Share with us one of your favorite memories of playing in number 6.
Oh gosh, I have so many, but I guess I have to go with the first thing that popped into my head when you said that. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's a favorite memory, but it's what popped into my head. So I have a plethora of things to choose from when I'm talking about that show, because it was an amazing experience. But there was one scene, and I guess this just shows the team aspect and the support that was part of the show and amongst the cast and crew. But there was a scene in the final season where Caprica 6 loses her baby. She miscarries with Colonel Ty, and Colonel Ty and Ellen Ty are in the room, the hospital, beside me, and we did the wide angles and the wide shot, and it's a tough scene to do, right? And then they were moving on to the next shot, and they were going to do Colonel Ty and Ellen Ty's coverage, and Michael Hogan, who is just an amazing man, he looked at me, and I was staying on there. I didn't want to get up, and I was just staying there, and I was trying to stay in the emotion of it. And he looked at me, and he goes, "Do you want to go next?" And I looked at him, and I didn't even say anything. He just went to the crew and said, "We're doing Tricia next." And so they changed, and they did me next. And he was just that kind of that awareness and that team effort, where he was like, he saw that I was in the emotional state, and it's hard to keep that up for multiple takes and multiple angles and everything. And it was that kind of just support as a fellow co-worker, and it was all about just making it the best that we could make it, and not about ourselves. And sometimes you get that where that's not it, people are all out for themselves or to get the best angle or the best shot, and that show was really about all of us working together as a team.
That's really beautiful. We do have our first audience question right at the front.
Yesterday you said you came from a movie shoot. Would you like to tell us what the name of the movie is?
Yes, absolutely. It's called Primitive War, and I'll tell you more. I won't just tell you the name of it. Actually by an Australian director, Luke Spark, and it's a war movie set in Vietnam in 1968, and it's about this vulture squad that goes in to try and find some missing Green Berets. So when they get there, they discover that there's dinosaurs have somehow, I won't tell you how, I won't tell you the secret as to why dinosaurs are now back on Earth. So it's a survival story, war story, but also survival stories. You got a feel of like Predator, Kong, that type of vibe. So it's they're actually filming. They've got Monday and Wednesday yet to film, and but I wrapped on Friday night, Saturday morning, and so it'll be probably a little while till it's out yet, just due to the amount of visual effects, because we didn't have real dinosaurs, so shucks, right?
Casting's not that good.
I tell you.
Sounds good.
We did have a guy in a blue suit every once in a while. Most of the time it was imaginary, but every once in a while there was a guy in a blue suit going, "Rawr!" getting us all to react to him.
I love it.
But all the tricks, right? It's like, you know, the things that the locations, and they wire up, you know, wires in the grass in the jungle to like rustle things to. It's amazing what all they do to help the actors, and also what you're filming. But so much of it will be visual effects. But it's going to be I think a really fun action movie, and at the heart a war story about this team trying to survive.
Beautiful. We got a question just at the back.
Hello. Tricia, thanks so much for your work. It's just fantastic. I've watched Battlestar Galactica twice all the way through. It's such a comfort. But I want to ask you a question about the story, if that's okay. And I know as an actor you don't have to understand absolutely everything. But the question I want to ask is to do with the ending and to do with the theme that everything is happening again. This is all happening again. What did that mean something to you? What did that mean to you and the cast?
That is probably one of the most difficult questions because I don't really know. To me, that's a really difficult question. And this sounds, I'm going to try and end it in just one sentence because I'm just going to sound silly if I try and elaborate more. But more to me, it was more just about how, as a society, we're not learning from our mistakes. If that makes any sense. But it did get a little bit, there was a lot going on in the final parts of the season. So I still don't really understand Starbuck myself. But yeah. I loved the final episode because it was like, it didn't end everything in a final, like everything tied up in a neat little bow, or it wasn't super depressing. It left it with some hope. But yeah, to me it was more just about not learning from our mistakes.
Cool, thank you for the question. We've got someone in the middle here.
Hi Charlotte, big fan. Just finished watching Lucifer for like the 5th or 6th time. In Lucifer you got to play two characters, both the goddess and Charlotte Richards. Which did you prefer and why? Which would you have most fun doing?
I'll answer your question, but I'll also say it's funny because I keep getting these roles where I play multiple characters with Battlestar and then Lucifer, and then even in Van Helsing, we went back and played in an origin story of Van Helsing, and I play Olivia before she becomes Dracula. So it's like, I've had a few roles where I play multiple characters, but I love them both. But I think I would have to go with Mom just because she was a little more fun, but also that's the role I was originally cast for. And I had a 1-year series deal. I was only supposed to be in that season. And then they came up with the idea of Charlotte Richards and doing that, which I really loved as well because it was a redemption story and a beautiful ending to her. It was sad, but it was also about her learning and making changes and getting a second chance, right? But I guess I would choose Mom just because that was what I was originally cast for, and it was super fun to play her for sure.
Cool. Is there any other questions?
Quiet bunch today. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's two.
There you go. They just needed a bit of persistence. Here we go.
When you were the unsub on Criminal Minds, did you do your own stunts, and what kind of stunt work or character work would you want to do next?
I did do all my own stuff in Criminal Minds, yes. There was, in the fight with, is it CJ? JJ. In the fight with JJ, I did we did most of the fight, but there was a little bit of it. I think that there was a stunt double. I can't remember this fight specifically, so I can't remember what parts she did. But there was a wonderful Shauna Duggins, I think was her name. I think that's her name. Wonderful stunt actress. I'd love to work with her again. But I think she's doing more coordinating now, if I remember that correctly. But so she did do a couple of things out of that for me. But yeah, I love doing stunts, and I've done most of my own stunts throughout my career. That will probably be getting less and less as I get older. Just, you know, and I've got a really bad knee now. I injured my knee in 2022 and had reconstructive surgery, and I have 4 artificial discs. And you know, I'm 50 years old, so I'm just getting, it's starting to affect me more and more. So I will probably do less of it as I go on. But even in the primitive war that I was just doing, we were doing a lot of physical. I didn't have to, I mean, I did have to fight some dinosaurs, but I didn't get attacked, so I didn't have super one-on-one fighting. But I was joking. There's a lot of young guys, you know, mid-20s guys, because I'm the only girl in it, right? So I'm with a group of guys, the Vulture Squad, and there's a couple of scenes where we have to run like the length of a football field, and flat out, and I am running as fast, and I'm fast, you know, I'm athletic, and so I'm running as fast as I can. But Carlos, who's 25, he just turned 26 in production, and I turned 50 in production, and he's like, I'm like, you gotta start 30 feet behind me, because we have to cross the finish line basically at the same time. And he's a Muay Thai fighter as well. And he's like this big dude, and he's just like, shoo! I think I pulled a butt muscle trying to stay ahead of him. I was stretched beforehand and everything, and Friday night, just before I came here, we were also doing stunts all day. We were running through corridors and climbing up ladders, pushing open hatches to get out, and I split my knuckle open. But I have separated a rib in Battlestar Galactica. I separated a rib during a stunt. In Downloaded, when we're in the underground explosion, and my leg is broken, and Lucy Lawless's character Deanna says, "Well, just, you know, let me kill you and you'll return." And I didn't want to do that, so I kill her, so I don't have to be killed. But I hit her over the head with a piece of concrete, I think, and she falls, and the way I had to fall over top of her and selling the leg that I can't step on the broken leg, in one of the takes, the way she fell made me fall a different way, and I landed on a set piece that was supposed to be like part of a wall of concrete, and I landed right on the corner of it and separated a rib from my breastbone. So yeah, that hurt.
Yeah, it sounds painful. It sounds very painful.
And tried going to the emergency room. So I flew home to LA the next morning, and I went, and I'm like, this really hurts. So I went to the emergency room, and they did x-rays, and they're like, how did you hurt yourself? Well, I was killing someone, and I fell over, and I landed, and I was in an underground explosion, and yeah. But in terms of stunts, I just want to do as much as I can. I want to continue doing them. There's a role that, keep your fingers crossed, a job that I'm producing, and we're waiting to hear back to see if it's a certain network is going to pick it up to pilot. So if that happens, I will be playing an ex-FBI agent with some incredible fighting skills. So I will have to get a little bit back in fighting shape, and but I would also have a stunt double.
Oh, thank you for the question. Do you have one?
In Galactica, you had so many different versions of yourself. On the question from before, which one was your favourite, and was it a lengthy process with a colour change of your hair?
If what, sorry?
Was it a lengthy process with the colour change of your hair when switching characters between, you know, Caprica 6 and
Yeah, there was definitely a lengthy process. The first part of your question, it's hard to say favorites. I don't really have favorites of anything because it depends on your mood. But I would have to go with Caprica just because she started the story and she ended the story, and she was the one with the love affair with Baltar, which came full circle. And so I would have to say, you know, for acting purposes, maybe more Gina, because she had a interesting story angle for an actor to portray. I really liked Natalie as well. And Boomer shooting her, I was really mad at that. She shot her for no reason, too. Natalie was not trying to take Hera. Anyway, but those would be my three probably top choices. And as for the hair, yes, the miniseries in the first season and half of the second season, they dyed my hair, and it had to be done every 10 days, and it just fried my hair. So halfway through the second season, my hair fell out in chunks. They had dyed it the night before, and I went to set the next morning, and the hairstylist took a brush and went like this, and the hair just went. So they had to get a wig, and from that point on, I had a wig. And the wig would take about probably 45 minutes to put on, but to take it off was probably about an hour and a half to 2 hour process, because you had to then take the wig off, which would take about 15 minutes. But then your hair is all just gooped up and forget the stuff but it's like rock hard. So then you have to wash it out, and it takes a few washes to get that out. And then you'd have to dry it and then curl it or whatever it was for the Natalie character or whatever. So, and that alone would take an hour. So it was a big process to go between characters, yeah.
Cool, thank you for the question. Folks, we do have time for a few more questions, so if you have, oh, there we go. Want to get a mic over to this gentleman?
Yeah, hi Tricia. I want to touch base on your video gaming, voicing and acting. So yeah, you've been in quite a few games, obviously like StarCraft, Command & Conquer, and Mortal Kombat. And I'm a bit of an old school gamer, especially Command & Conquer gets me going. So like, what got you into that, and why were you in the video gaming field, and do you play video games?
I don't play video games. I've actually never played a video game. I guess technically I did in the late 80s on our first computer. We had Frogger. I never made it past, I think, the second level. But no, actually I've never ever played a video game. But I got into it thanks to Battlestar Galactica, because a lot of game developers were fans of the show, and Command & Conquer was the first one, and they were fans of the show. So they had myself and Sharon, Boomer, Grace Park in it, and then that's how it kind of just snowballed into other jobs. A lot to do with Battlestar, because you know, I don't know, but so I have a lot to thank for it. But then once you're in it, and then you start to get to know some voice directors and things, so then I would, you know, a voice director would book me for another, like I did an animated movie that it was because I had worked with her on one of the video games, and so it's just, you know, work begets more work, right? And that's how that started.
Awesome, thank you so much. I've got a couple more questions if anyone wants to try and come up with another interesting question, because we do have a little bit more time. I've got a question while we get ready for the next audience one. I noticed you mentioned you've done a bit of producing. What was there anything that inspired you to get into that space?
Well, I'm still really trying to get more into it. It's just a natural evolution, I think. Being in the business, especially if it's a project that's one you're getting made, you want to have a say in it. So it is just the natural evolution. I think most actors end up doing some sort of producing. I don't think I'd want to be the on-set line producer where you're in the nitty-gritty all the time. I'd like to be more on the creative producing side. I don't want to be on the finance side either. Raising money is not fun, but definitely more on the creative producing side, where you have a little bit more say in the tone of the show, or creative aspects of the show.
Are there any kind of general themes that you're really passionate about producing, or being involved with the creative process?
There's the one that I mentioned that I can't really say, that we're waiting to hear. I've been involved with that from the beginning, and that was an original idea that my producing partner came to me with, and then we pitched and got a showrunner that wrote a pitch document, and then we pitched a network, and they liked it, and they paid our showrunner to write a pilot episode, and that's what we're waiting to hear back on. So that I was kind of involved from the beginning process, and I mentioned yesterday a serial killer book that I'd like to get made, and that again but that was an IP where we hired a showrunner, did a contract with the showrunner. He did a whole pitch document, and then we lost him and then the strike happened, and then we lost him to Law and Order. And then we've had to pitch more showrunners, and so forgot part of your question. And then there's another one that is can't really say because he wants to keep it secret, but I'm working with a writer friend on a project that and he's definitely doing more of the workload of it. My workload would get more later towards, if it actually once it's finished, more in the getting the word out there and lending my voice to it, and it's my likeness and stuff, and I was in some of the creative aspects of it, but then he went away and wrote it, and he's putting all the ducks in a row, so to speak, and then I would get more involved once it actually gets to a platform where I can then talk about it and get, do press interviews and that type of thing to get the word out. But yeah, I'd like to do more, and I'd like to be more in control of it.
Cool. Well, we've all got our fingers crossed for your pilot. I want to see some fingers crossed. There we go.
Thank you.
We're putting it into the universe. Excellent. We do have another audience question just in the middle here.
G'day. Are you still riding motorbikes, or have you given that away?
I do. Yes, I am. I couldn't for a good year and a half because of my knee. So I brought my bike with me from LA when I moved, and then it was the winter, and it was just getting towards the spring where I could start riding, and I destroyed my knee. So I ended up selling the bike because I knew I wasn't going to be riding it for a long time. But I bought another bike last summer, I think. And I bought a Harley Davidson Pan America. So I haven't been out on it that much because again it was winter, and now I've just been out a couple times. I was away January, February, filming in Boston, and then was on it a little bit in March, and then I came here. So I've been in Australia since the end of March. But I plan on getting some riding in when I get back. Yes.
Cool. Thank you so much. I think we got another question just over here.
Hi Trish, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I just want to know this, I'm not saying to name your unnamed project, but are you considering all the other independent, stream providers like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon and all that to release this project?
The one that I'm hoping to hear on? Not yet, because the network that we're waiting to hear on paid the money to our writer to pay it. So they technically have first dibs on it, so we can't go to other places unless they pass on it. If they pass on it, then we can take it out to other places. If someplace else picks it up, then they would have to pay, I almost said the network, pay the network back for their original costs. There's a name for it, but I forget what it is. But yeah, so right now we're just waiting, but the strike, we were supposed to hear, we turned in the revisions they'd given us revisions and we turned them in right before the strike happened, but then nothing happened during the strike. And then it was the holidays, and then we were supposed to hear in January, and then it was a situation of, well, everything's all upended, we're gonna wait until some shows have aired this spring, and then we're gonna have a whole look at our whole slate and see what's out there. So, yeah, we're supposed to be hearing this month. But after that, it's either gonna be this and a yes, or then we will take it to other places, yes. If it's a negative, yeah.
Cool, thank you so much. Last question, if anyone has one. There you go. Last one.
In such an emotionally challenging career where there's quite often disappointment when projects don't happen, quite often a lot of bullshit, if I can say that, how do you stay so down to earth? You seem incredibly down to earth.
Oh, thank you. It is a very challenging career in that respect. There's a lot of ups and downs. You know, I personally have had a really bad 2 years with the knee injury and then the strike, and just I realized how much of my own personal enjoyment I get out of my work, and when that was away for 2 years, and how hard that was on me. Also being physically laid up, I'm very physically active, I love to hike and everything, so, and that's how I get a lot of stress out. So if that was taken away from me too, I was really in a fairly heavy headspace for myself. But it, you know, I grew up on a farm. I think I really can attribute a lot of it to really having a very salt of the earth growing up, and really being feeling fortunate for being able to do what I enjoy what I do. And I remember my grandfather, when I was a child, saying, find something that you love to do for work, so that your work is play. And I love what I do, and so it's hard and has its challenges, but I love what I do, and I think I can always bring it back to that. And my father said to me too, when I left at 17 to start modeling, he said to me, if you're still the same person in 10 years, I'll be proud of you. And it was pretty much 10 years later, and he remembered it. It was right when I was kind of transferring from modeling to acting, and he was all worried about me starting a new career, and he goes, I told you this 10 years ago, and you're still the same person you were, more worldly and more whatever, but you're still the same at the core, the same person you were. And he goes, I'm proud of you. I know you're going to keep that going forward. And so I have my dad talking in my head as well all the time. Thank you.
Beautiful question, beautiful answer. Thank you so much. Folks, that's unfortunately all we have time for. So
Can we do longer? This is always my favorite part. Panels and Q&As, I love them.
It's always the best part. That's even better. Thanks to you for being here. Everyone, please join me. A big warm thank you. A big round of applause.
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming out.
Tricia Halfer, everyone.